Curious Assistant of the Dog in the Nighttime is written by an author named Mark Haddon. He has written numerous award-winning children's books and television screenplays. The novel has won a Los Angeles and New York Times Book Prize. It is about a kid named Christopher. The mother has passed away from a sickness, and he also has autism. His father loves him, however, when frustrated, he abuses him. Christopher doesn't understand how wrong this is, though. Also, he has a pet rat that is one of his best friends because he has trouble fitting in. One day, Christopher stumbles upon his neighbor's dog that was stabbed in the side and left for dead. He goes up to the dog and hugs him. However, the owner was not happy with this, eventually calling the cops. He ends up getting out of trouble, but is very curious about the situation. He starts doing detective work about the mystery and writes everything in a book, eventually asking people in the neighborhood if they knew who had committed the crime. An old lady eventually goes to the park with him to talk about the subject, but the Gill insider eventually came out and told Chris his mother cheated on his father with Mr. Shears, which is why he did not want Chris anywhere near that family. One day, his father found a journal Chris writes about his life. He hides it, causing Christopher to look for it. To his surprise, in the same box his father hid his book, he kept a ton of letters sent to him. The letters were from his mother, but after she had already passed away. Insane. He realized his mother is not dead after all, and that his father had been lying to him all along. When his father catches him reading the books, he also admits that he killed Miss Shear's dog because she did not spend time with him, and he was frustrated because he surprisingly had feelings for her. Yeah, I know, what a hypocrite, right? After all this conundrum rushing to his brain, he finally realizes what the right decision was. He had to leave his father to go see his mother. When arriving to London, his mother was ecstatic, but irate his father had lied to him about her death. Eventually, he moves in with his mother, but his father gains back his trust by buying him a dog. With all this stress, he has to still worry about a big test he has coming up to get into a good college. He ends up getting the best score possible and getting into a school, realizing that he can accomplish any task he is faced with.
Christopher Boone always says what he means. He is a very literal person with very little emotion, if any at all. Chris always gets sidetracked throughout the story, and this shows the type of writer that Christopher Boone is. Throughout the story, as the readers get to see who Chris truly is, and we get to see how he thinks. The meaning added throughout the story is the fact that the reader learns through the structure that Chris is a very detached person from his emotions. Chris isn't connected to humans emotionally like everyone else. He can never understand what people are saying. This is proven when in the novel, his friend Shanohan has to show him pictures to understand emotion, thus proving that he can't connect with people on an emotional level, and that he needs things to be in order and logical in order for him to understand them. Emotions are too complex for him to understand. Christopher doesn't understand that other people have emotions as well. This is one of the main reasons that Christopher Boone is so matter of fact. Is the fact this has a major effect on the way that the story plays out. The author making Chris detached from everyone else shows how the emotional aspect from the book is not there because of the way Christopher is. So there isn't really an emotional aspect to the book Chris is writing from his own eyes. This is very different for the reader because we can connect with our emotions unlike Chris. Chris throughout the story incorporates some math into his story that he is writing, and this shows the reader that he is truly detached from the rest of the emotional world. Overall, this shows how Christopher lives and thinks in the book which he wrote, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
Themes in the story The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime are: one must disregard the impulse of their emotions and seek a logical outcome. The factor of trust is important to every person, no matter if they're in the same situation as Christopher is in or not. Without trust in one's life, to go through their life every day without a safe zone, without someone to talk to.
Throughout the novel, Christopher finds himself relating with dogs. The dogs represent Christopher's safety, which is appropriate because in the real world, dogs are used as protection and to comfort their owners. Along with physical safety, dogs also represent emotional safety within Christopher. When Chris first found Wellington dead in Mrs. Shear's yard, he disregards his own safety in efforts to protect others and find Wellington's murderer. Later in the novel, Christopher's investigation leads him to the emotional danger when he discovers the letters that his mother has been sending while she has been having an affair with Mr. Shears. This emotional disparity is increased when Ed, Christopher's father, confesses to being the killer of Wellington, causing Christopher to lose his trust. After his father's confession, Christopher takes on dog-like qualities, such as barking whenever someone bumps into him or frightens him. Christopher's defense mechanism is from his father's physical and emotional abuse begins to resemble that of a dog that is being beaten and abused. Finally, in the resolution of the story, Ed gives Christopher a dog, Sandy, to keep as a pet. Ed does this in an attempt to regain Christopher's trust. This kind gesture from Ed allows Christopher to feel safe around Ed once again. The symbol of dogs throughout the novel represent not only Christopher's emotional and physical safety, but his overall trust for the people around him. Christopher says that he trusts dogs because they cannot lie, unlike humans who are known to lie. Christopher loses his trust for Ed because Ed has lied to him about his mother's death. Finding someone to trust is something that everyone in today's society struggles to do. In a generation that practically lives online, gossip is more relevant than ever. This gossip creates a social environment in which no person can trust another out of fear for being the topic of the next person's online conversation, furthermore leading to harassment both online and in real life, and leaving individuals with the feeling of ostracism.
Cars are another symbol that repeatedly shows up throughout the plot of the novel. The car symbolizes the secretive order in which Christopher puts on society to make it simple to understand. In the story, Christopher has a set of rules that he creates and follows regarding the colors of the cars and how they affect the mood of his day. This is similar to the way that people judge their day based on the weather. The symbol of cars is also used while Christopher thinks his mother's in the hospital. Christopher sends his mother a card with 9 red cards on it. Christopher does this in his own mind, to make his mother's day the best that it can possibly be. Cars seem to function as sort of a religion in Christian's mind, in the sense that he bases his entire rationale for his day based off what cars he sees, which is ironic itself because he does not believe in God. Christopher bases his life off cars in order to help himself cope and understand emotion. This, just like finding trust, is just another difficult thing that people are forced to do at some point in their lives. To cope with emotion, some pray and others seek help such as counseling. A small portion of people become overwhelmed with emotion and slip into depression or mania. However, this is not the case for Christopher. Christopher puts a logical order that makes sense to him over every aspect of his life. This logical way of thinking enables him to cope with his issues in a way that works. This logical order also is due to him being somewhere on the autism spectrum, which creates a mental environment where he can only physically notice emotion and not understand it on a personal level. In this story, the father shows his way of using logic to handle the situation between him and his wife. He takes it upon himself to not tell Christopher what had happened because Christopher is not able to handle his emotions since he already has a disability. In 2 years of Christopher's life, he was not only unaware that his mother cheated on his father, but she has in fact not died. Like he said she did. Keeping this from every other person would be inhumane. Although keeping it from him is not right, it keeps Christopher away from possibly going into something he cannot handle. To add on, Ed, Christopher's dad, had also shown this theme by taking the life of Wellington, Mitchell's dog. By committing these acts, he has proven that he does not take other emotions into consideration when making a decision, and only how much the logic makes sense to him. Relating this to the situation, the logical decision Ed made is exactly why he lost Christopher to his mother. He took what made sense to him and acted, causing him to lose his trust of his ex-wife and Chris. After losing them, he realized the mistake he has made, how much trust means to his life and his relationship with Christopher, though. At the time, he neglected the importance of it. Trust is the spine, the backbone of what it means to love someone. No connections, alone, going through life being fearful of everyone, life will end up like a train ride of suspense with deceitful people.
Throughout the book, Christopher is constantly fighting to keep trust with his father while his father continues to break the trust. In the book, Christopher finds letters from his mother addressed to his name hidden in his father's room. When Chris finds these letters and reads them, he finds out that his mother is not dead and is living in England with Mr. Shear. Chris loses all trust for his father because he has been telling him that his mother was dead for years when she really wasn't, causing him to leave and move in with his mother in England. Over the time spent with his mother, he begins to gain all of her trust that his father had, causing his father to break down and begin to get desperate. Christopher's mother keeps his trust until his desperate father begins buying him things such as a dog to gain his trust and love once again. At first, this is a long shot until he remembers who his father really is. Then Christopher begins to start trusting his father once again until he completely gains Christopher's trust back, causing Chris to move back with his father. This shows that in order to truly trust someone, one must lose trust for that person at least once in their life.
In the novel, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, the kid Christopher went through many struggles, witnessing the aftermath of a murder of a dog, being abused by his father, realizing his mother cheated on his father, that she is not dead, and all on top of this, that his father was the person who took the animal's life. Although through all this it has shown that trust is the most important thing in a relationship, because without it there is no safe zone, and that logical decisions can lose trust in people, but will make people realize it is a better decision in the long run.